Hello students, now after seeing the structure of neuron, let's talk about the types of neuron, right? So basically there are three types of neuron: sensory neuron, motor neuron, or association or relay neuron, right? So first of all, let's talk about the sensory neuron. So these neurons receive signals from a sense organ, right? So there are different sense organ we could have, like nose, skin, etc., right? So from the different sense organ, the sensory neuron will receive the signal. Then motor neuron. So these neurons send signals to muscles or gland, because whatever the signal we are getting, according to that signal we have to react. So reaction obviously done by the muscles, right, or a gland. So whatever the signal received by the sensory neuron will passed to the motor neuron, and motor neuron will send these signals to muscles or gland to respond according to that signals. Then association or relay neuron. So these neurons relay the signals between sensory neuron and motor neuron, right? So obviously, as per the name, what is the function of relay neuron? It will relay the signal between these two neurons, that sensory and motor, right? So now the next is synapse. So what is the meaning of the synapse? So the point contact between between the terminal branches of axon of one neuron with the dendrites of another neuron is called synapse, right? So basically the gap between two neurons, in short, if we are going to define the synapse, then the gap between two neurons is considered as the synapse, right? So if we try to understand it with the help of figure, then you here seen the figure of neuron, right? So from here, if we are going to consider a second neuron, इसके पास अगर हम second neuron consider करें, then we can see there will be a gap between two neurons. Suppose here I am going to draw another neuron like this way, and this is the dendrites of another neuron, right? So you can see these are the gap, and this gap is considered as the synapse, right? So in case of synapse, you can see the axon terminal of one neuron and dendrites of another neuron, right? So the point contact between the terminal branches of axon, you can see here the branches of axon of one neuron with the dendrites of another neuron. So here there will be a dendrites of another neuron, right? So that what called the synapse, okay? So now let's talk about the transmission of nerve impulses. Now the nerve impulses, how it can be transferred, transmission taking place, right? What will be the sequence? So the nerve impulses travel in the following manner from one neuron to the next neuron. So first of all, obviously the signals will accepted by dendrites. Dendrites will send it to the cell body. From cell body it will goes to the axon, and then from axon it will goes to the nerve ending, which is also known as the axon terminal at the tip of axon, and then after once it will goes to the synapse, the gap between two neuron, and then after it will goes to the dendrites of the next neuron, right? So this same sequence, if we try to understand in the figure, then we can go through like this way. First of all, the signals will accepted by these dendrites, right? Dendrites will send that signals to the cell body. From cell body, obviously it will goes to the axon. From axon it will goes to the nerve ending. Nerve ending, which is also known as the axon terminal. From that it will goes to the synapse, and from synapse it will receive by the dendrites of another neuron, and like this way it will be continuously pass on, right? So on. So we can say that the transmission of nerve impulses will taking place in this sequence.